Before we get started with Debate Amongst Friends, we would like to wish our condolences to those we've lost during the past week. First, we have former Portland Trailblazer Uncle Cliffy Robinson, who passed away at the age of 53.
We also have former University of Arizona head coach Robert Lute Olson, passed away at the age of 85.
We also had the unfortunate passing of legendary head coach of the Georgetown Hoyas, John Thompson, who passed away at the age of 78.
And finally, iconic actor Chadwick Boseman, better known as playing a rendition of Jackie Robinson in the movie 42, James Brown in Get On Up, Thurgood Marshall in Marshall, Chadwick Boseman passed away at the age of 43.
Now we will give a 10-second moment of silence.
Thank you.
We are not Sports Center. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Debate Amongst Friends. I am the Professor John Gotti. My co-host over here is Doc Leesner, the podcasting beast, and we're ready to provide you with another fun edition of sports news, analysis, and the reads.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Debate Amongst Friends. This is Dr. Wednesday Night, the podcast beast. And by my side here, J.A. Gotti, coming at you live. Prof, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, actually. I'm glad, we were able to get you on for this week, despite the circumstances. And it has been a very sombering week for the Debate Amongst Friends crew. But Doc, I'm happy to see you in high spirits, and I'm ready to talk about stuff.
Yeah, it's been tough to stay in high spirits. There are a lot of things going on, obviously personal life, but in entertainment, sports, we've lost a lot of legends this week, including, as we mentioned in the beginning, John Thompson, Lute. I mean, you're talking about two of the greats. And it's one of those things where you start getting older and you're like, people are starting to pass away, those heroes of yesterday. But I did not expect Chadwick Boseman, to be sick. Like, I didn't expect him to pass away on my birthday, actually, of all days.
Yeah, it was quite the shock. Not just to the entertainment side, but the sports side. As I mentioned before, he was playing renditions of many iconic characters in sports history, as well as, of course, played an iconic character in a comic book series as well, too, playing Black Panther. But it was just kind of interesting how many people only remembered him as T'Challa, right, rather than some of the other characters that he played as. The most iconic, of course, being Jackie Robinson in movie 42, which I thought was a great movie.
No, he really did good. And to be honest, I think my favorite role, which of course I put on Facebook, I didn't put it on the Debate Amongst Friends, I put it on my personal Facebook, but my favorite role, and even though it's not a huge one, it's kind of a supporting role, but my favorite role was in Draft Day with Kevin Costner and a few others. I felt he played a young linebacker with a lot of spirit, and he was really convincing. Like I can say, like he really, really was convincing. Like you would have really thought, like, hey, he plays linebacker for Oklahoma.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? Like that's just what I would have thought. Like it was like watching I guess who can I compare it to? I don't even know. Like, just think about a young linebacker right now who I guess think of I don't want to use him. I was gonna say think of Shaq Barrett, but this is just from me being a Bucks fan.
Mm-hmm.
But just think of any of your top linebackers that go top 5 and their energy, their attitude, you just know like they have a lot of confidence. They're humble, but they have a lot of confidence in themselves. And I'll never forget the look on his face when he was drafted number 1. It was almost like he didn't read the script and he got drafted over 1 and he just gave like a raw emotion. Like that's what it felt like. Like he was really drafted number 1. That's what I believed. Like, this player was drafted number 1 overall. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, like, he's in tears. Dang it, I'm about to be in tears. Like I really believe that this guy here, Vontae Mack, I feel like Vontae Mack just got drafted by the Cleveland Browns.
No, I agree. And I just think about, once again, his role in 42, which was, of course, released the year before draft day. And, having to project that Roy motion, and Doc mentioned Roy motion, that Roy motion at that time. And Doc and I talk about this a lot. We talk about movies that, you should probably never watch prior to going to work the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And while this one definitely does hit you in the feels, like it makes you feel so uplifted because you can witness, because we weren't even a wink in our daddy's eye when Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier. But being able to see that in an artistic documentary, or I guess it called a documentary? I don't know. But to be able to see that on a big screen, like, is amazing.
Yeah. And to hear that he was so enthralled in the character, like to see that, because they did a docu, kind of like, not a documentary, but they did a tribute to him on ABC following the showing of Black Panther. And it was interesting because the family of James Brown and Jackie Robinson, they were talking to, the reporters about how, he researched, he did his own dance moves. Like he actually practiced and learned it. Like he studied Jackie Robinson. He said everything that Jackie would have said according to the family. Yep. So it was like, you're talking about an actor who really believed in his craft. And, I don't know if you get that anymore. Like, I know we talk about, people who play the Joker, for example. When people play the Joker, they get so into the character that it kind of becomes them, so to speak, I guess. But we're talking about embodying a real historical person. Like, these people were real that he embodied, and I believed every moment of it. And like I said, I love Black Panther, but my favorite, if I had to pick one of his that he was in, it probably would be Draft Day for me. I thought he really captured it. But don't get me wrong, that takes nothing away from Black Panther.
No.
Excuse me, that takes nothing away from Black Panther. Love the movie, love the culture, love everything about it.
I still am on the notion of, if it took Black Panther for people to really embrace,
right?
Like, that's the only problem that I have.
outside of the accent, I don't think he really had to do a lot of like full acting. Like, I don't think he was allowed. To me, outside of the accent, I don't think it took a lot of acting. Like, I'm not, granted, I know that it took a lot because there's a lot of action in it, but when you look at some of these other roles, like it really, really took studying. And don't get me wrong, Black Panther, they try to stay in line with the comics, but a lot of times they move away from it.
Of course, they had to take, creative liberties, of course. I'm talking more on the fact that people are acting like this is a real place. That was the part that really got to me.
But you know something? I think that speaks to the world that we live in, that we would rather be in a made-up world. Because that kind of happened with...
Didn't it happen in the 90s as well? Like around the time of... what's the name of that TV show?
No, it wasn't a TV show. Well, the last one I remember was the step name with the blue people. Avatar.
Different World.
Different World.
When people really was trying to embrace.
Are you talking about as far as I don't think so. You talking about with the Bill Cosby spinoff?
Yeah.
But they could have easily just went to a black college.
Thank you.
That's a real place.
I know that's a real place.
Yeah, that's why I was I'm thinking Avatar when they were trying to go to the Blue World place.
Okay, you're not talking about the animated. Okay, gotcha. Needed context there.
No, not the animated one.
Needed context
the actual movie. I don't know if people want to go to. I don't know if people want to go to the Avatar, the anime. I don't know if that was a thing. I just know that people wanted to go to this place in this movie because it was nice and
it was a utopia.
Yeah, it just goes to show you where we are as a people, where Wakanda would be great because of its technological advances, which I'm pretty sure some of those we could probably obtain, but it would be great to have a place like that, but it doesn't exist to our knowledge.
No. And even if it does, I don't, and of course it's me being cynical, even if it does, I don't want it to become common knowledge, because the problem is we have monopolies, we have globalization. We both took classes about that. Like We've seen, what can happen to, a third world country. Imagine a highly technological country now having, all these business ventures trying to get in there and all these, shady people trying to, it's not going to become as utopian as we are led to believe in, quarter century, half a century.
I can understand that, and I think this will be the last thing I'll say about that. But I could see something like that being on Mars, because that's all people talk about is Mars. Bringing Mars could be Wakanda. We wouldn't even know it.
I feel like people don't even know all about Mars, and they're just saying that because they hear someone else say it.
Of course, that's how it works. That's how it works. But let's take the football. We're talking about draft day. We're talking about these iconic roles, these iconic coaches. Let's take some football while we have some time. Leonard Fournette cut by the Jaguars. They couldn't find a trade partner, obviously, because he makes $1 billion.
He makes a lot of money, and it's not his fault.
It's not. I mean, it's not the Jaguars' fault either. You pay him because he was the best back at that particular time.
Yep.
They drafted him number 4 overall in 2017.
This is true.
It's only been 3 years. It wasn't his fault. Remember, they went to the playoffs.
They did, and then they made it to the conference championship.
Yeah, the championship. Then the next year, they pretty much got rid of everybody that brought them there, which was pretty interesting.
And then it became a complete circus as well, with the whole Tom Coughlin situation as well, which didn't help it out either.
Right. So then they switch quarterbacks. Then they switch to few other things. You bring another quarterback in. Actually, no, they went to the playoffs. Then they switched quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went and switched quarterbacks again. So it's like there's a lot going on with Jacksonville. But I think now at this point they're going back into rebuild. I hear.
I think they are. And I think they're trying to adjust their personnel based off of what's, hot and new now in the NFL, which is, of course, the way that the Chiefs are operating and the Ravens are operating.
I mean, I don't want this to become another process because nobody has time for that.
Oh, we will get there, folks.
But I did see that they traded Yannick Ngukwe last week, I believe that was. And obviously last season they traded Jalen Ramsey. Now you trade away, or I guess you cut for a net. It's like, this is going to be a bare bones, and I don't mean Jones, shell.
I saw what you did. That was
the
pretty
Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, that was good. So I don't know, obviously, what's going to happen. But as far as Fournette, obviously he's going to have some suitors. You know, the New England Patriots, the Bucks, the Dolphins. I've seen the Jets floating around there.
Yeah.
I would be curious to see who picks him up.
Well, he cleared waivers, so
which I don't blame him again.
I mean, no one's going to pick that up. So he's probably going to get picked up at a pretty low price for 1 year. So I mean, I told Doc I can totally see him going to Tampa Bay. He said New England, and he also said the Steelers as well too, which also makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if, now that I'm thinking about it, I wouldn't be surprised if I see him go to, I was going to say the Texans, but the Packers.
So I would have said the Packers, but I know based on everything that I've heard, they have a rookie running back that's a big back already.
That's right. They did. They actually drafted him.
Yeah, so I don't think so. I could see the Chiefs taking I know they drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I could see the Chiefs taking a run only because I believe Damian Williams is holding out due to COVID. I don't know if James.
I mean, understandable.
Yeah, James Conner hasn't actually had a full year under his belt without getting hurt. Obviously, the Bucks have, LaShawn McCoy and Ronald Jones.
What about the Vikings?
I don't know. They're still trying to figure out things with Dalvin Cook. And this list that I'm looking at here has the Seahawks, the 49ers, and the Panthers.
I don't think the running game was the problem with the Panthers last year.
They did put a lot on McCaffrey.
Yes. You said the Seahawks. I could see the Seahawks. I could see the Seahawks.
I mean, they need to fix their defense. I don't think they need to worry about offense.
But I don't know how good their line is to be able to support a run game, though.
Right.
Because the problem is they went from being Marshawn's team to Russell's team. And now you're going to have a big back come in, and he might end up being the next Jimmy Graham, who is just there with a lot of hype, but nothing is really happening for them.
True. That's true. Like I said, I think Leonard Fournette definitely needs and this is the problem with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Fournette needs the threat of the pass. And that's the only reason I could see him if he went to Kansas City. If you went to a Tampa now where you got Tom Brady back there, if you go to a New England, which, with Cam, I think would be pretty good. If
the Bengals didn't do an extension for Joe Mixon, I could have seen the Bengals. That would have been interesting. But they just signed Joe Mixon, and I didn't know that was a final thought of yours or not, Doc. So I apologize if I.
No, that's okay. We're fine. That's all right.
But Joe Mixon did sign a 4-year, $48 million contract extension with the Bengals. So had they not signed that extension, I could have seen Leonard Fournette do something there, because the Bengals need all the help they need.
I'm going to be interested to see what happens. I think it's going to be an interesting team. I mean, obviously, this is the first time he's a free agent. He's definitely no Trent Richardson by any means. So I think he'll get an opportunity to play somewhere. Somebody where they want to smash. I mean, They want big smash football. I think.
Thank you for adding that context.
I think somebody will want to take a big back like that. That's pretty funny, actually.
Yes.
You can be killing it. But let's take a quick break and let's come back with some more after this.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Doc, second round action on the east side only. Milwaukee Bucks, Miami Heat. Miami won the first game. Of course, everyone's talking about this. Everyone's overly criticizing Giannis. And now everyone is overly praising Jimmy Butler.
How many times are we going to do this?
Literally every single year. Because I feel like every year, people's opinions on players change like a baby's diaper.
Wow, not a baby's diaper.
All the time.
Well, this is what I will say. I mean, I knew that the Bucks were going to end that Magic talk. Like, they don't believe in magic. I knew that the only magic was the Disney, and that's over until COVID is over.
It wasn't even us, folks. It was the mainstream media gassing up the magic like this. Are you kidding me?
Absolutely.
Oh, the Bucks might be overrated. Oh, the Magic's gonna beat them in 5.
It's actually pretty ridiculous.
Disrespectful. To coin a phrase, blasphemous to even state that. And the Magic they're no slouch, but come on. Stop it.
I understand exactly what you're saying. I think we got to put some respect on the Heat. I think because we talked about this last series. The Heat are no slouch.
It's so ridiculous because of the reputation that they gave Jimmy Butler. And you heard me say this. No, I think Jimmy Butler is going to do something really great with the Magic, with the Heat.
But the team is pretty good. Like I said, they had the confidence to get rid of Hassan Whiteside, which I thought was crazy because he was such a great player. But with the young guys that they have, the heroes, the Adebayos, I think, and then bringing in a vet, even though, a lot of people probably thought he was done and they probably thought it was crazy of the Heat to do it, but bringing in Dragic.
It wasn't the fact that he was done. They just said that he was a diva.
Wow. I mean, last game, against the Bucks, 27 points. I would be a diva too.
But is it really him being a diva though? But is it him?
Think about it culturally. It's different. Culturally, he might just expect more because, he is, an international player. I think people forget about those kind of things where in your country, whether it's he played in Slovenia and Spain, in which in those particular countries, he probably is treated like a king.
Yeah.
And then you come here and people try to disrespect you because you're not, you don't have the name of a superstar. So it's like you got to drop buckets on them.
Pretty much.
So I don't know. I think I don't know. I think it's going to be a good series. I don't think that, people expect, I guess, the Stars to win every game, I guess.
I feel like people just want to spew things just for the sake of spewing things.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to completely look over the fact that despite the fact that the Bucks shot like 42% from 3, they had way too many mistakes turnover-wise.
Mm-hmm.
And Giannis had 3 turnovers at the fourth quarter by himself. I think he only made 3 buckets. And they got rebounded. They were just making mistakes. It's hard to win a game if you're making these many mistakes. You're not making the proper adjustments by it. And then suddenly, post game, Now people are trying to get on Giannis, asking him, "Well, you're the defensive player of the year. How come you didn't face off against Jimmy Butler?" What?
Wow.
Like, I would answer the way Giannis did too. I'm listening to my coach.
Right. Yeah. Which he does. I mean, he's a young guy still. I mean, I don't think people realize that a lot of these guys are still pretty young.
Yes.
You know, and I think at some point people had to realize, like, hey, you know, he's still a pretty young guy. He's only 25 years old.
Yeah.
You know, he's a very, very humble person. I don't know. I think they need to just chill until the next episode.
I feel like people are taking this first game and blowing it way out of proportion. And these are the same people who these are most likely the same people who said that the Magic were going to beat the Bucks.
And I said that they were going to nuck if you buck over there. It's going to be ridiculous.
So the next series feature.
I don't think the series is going to be an easy series for either team. I think Jimmy Butler is going to try to go off because he has something to prove.
Yeah, well, Jimmy Butler plays with the chip on his shoulder every single night, like, because he hears all the. So it's not so much as he hears it and he claps back. He hears it and then he shows why people are wrong on the floor, and that's the mentality you need to have, and that's what he wanted to do in Milwaukee as well as Philadelphia. And what people don't understand is the way that he left wasn't the issue. The issue always was, how was the team functioning?
True.
And I don't even know if you had a chance to listen in on the JJ Redick podcast, but if you do, and we really don't try to cross promote, because JJ Redick, if you really want Dr. Prof on your show, hit us up at Debate Amongst Friends on Twitter, at Debate Amongst Friends on Instagram. But he was talking about how the lack of preparation with Brett Brown and the lack of watching tape, and
wow.
You hear a lot of the legends talk about how much watching tape is important, especially in football, and they're not looking at tape. Like, it's so blasé.
Well, I mean, you don't have to look at tape because with the way they do it, it's pretty, pick and roll, isolation. I mean, that's the game. That's what I said. It seemed like they didn't have a real identity.
No, they didn't have an identity.
I don't really want to get too wrapped up in the team that's not at the playoffs anymore, but they just didn't have an identity. That's why I think a part of the process is over, because they need somebody to come in and settle them down. They have a lot of talent. You don't want to ruin it by, keeping a coach that doesn't want to move forward.
We'll get to that one as well too. So the next series in the East, and what I'm talking about, the Celtics and the Raptors. That's what I meant, folks. We're gonna get to that first. But first, this series, Boston won the first game, I believe by big, actually.
Yeah, 112-94.
Yeah. Of course, people are already going off. Oh my gosh, the Raptors are done. Oh my goodness, this is just like what happened when it was LeBronto and all this. Like, first of all, you need to calm down. It's a 7-game series. The series is never over after game 1.
This is what I'll say. I will say that obviously what we saw from Fred VanVleet is, it was against the Nets.
Yep.
I said that. I didn't think he was going to be the guy. But this Boston team is young. They're hungry.
Yep.
Kemba is getting his first taste of being out of the first round and really getting into the playoffs.
Yep.
So, and think about it. The rest of these young Boston players are also doing the same.
This is still the same young core that made it to the Eastern Conference Finals a few years ago. Like people people have so much short-term memory. It's maddening.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jason Tatum was there. Like, Jaylen Brown was there. Like they were there. Like, they could have went to the finals.
Yeah.
But we just forget about this.
I think I'm not counting the champs out, though. I think Siakam step up.
Well, the problem is people count out the champs as soon as before the season started.
I mean, people always talk about them like they're going to get swept.
Yes!
Like they're the Raptors of old.
But they're not. Once again, first game of the series. We've seen many teams fall the first game and end up just doing something amazing afterwards. Yeah. Like, calm down, everyone. But Boston, as you mentioned, have been playing like a team on a mission. Same thing with the Raptors, and I think it's going to be a close game for the game that is going to happen for game 2. You know, and it could be possible that the Raptors take this game and, you know,
well,
make
right
it
now
even.
They're tied 43-42, 43-43, 2 minutes, 57 seconds left in the second quarter.
Yep. So, I mean, anything can happen, but I think so I know people like to, you know, go, well, it's going to go 7 just because they want to try to tickle that line all the time, not really make a decision, but this series will go 7. The Bucks series,
not sure. I think it might go 6. I think I'm gonna not ride the wave, but I really feel like this Celtics team is hungry. They finally don't have to face LeBron. The Raptors also, think about it. The Raptors and the Celtics, 2 teams that, you know, historically were playing against Cleveland and the, you know, LeBron Cavaliers, you know, and being eliminated, you know, early.
Yeah.
So or late. That. I think you think about it. The Raptors not having to deal with the Cavs last season and LeBron, I mean, obviously it helped them tremendously.
Absolutely. It's a huge confidence booster. Of course, we're not saying it's only because of LeBron. There's so many other different factors, but this conversation is not about him.
But see, a lot of people, and this is where it gets kind of like disrespectful because a lot of people are probably gonna put an asterisk because it's like LeBron's not in the East, and you got Kawhi Leonard.
Oh my! Ooh.
Double asterisk.
Ooh.
Double.
I'm not even. People who say that should not be talking about basketball anymore. First of all, they shouldn't. They shouldn't even talk about basketball.
So I think you have that, but I mean, like I said, the Raptors are going to have to prove and show that they belong in the conversation with the teams to beat.
I think so. I do agree with you. And that's why I think it might go 7. I think their championship pedigree is going to come into play for a few games, and I don't think they'll go away with a whimper like a lot of people are talking about. I
just know that the Celtics with Kemba, I think, and that's the only reason I think that Al Horford made a mistake.
Of course, he made a mistake.
Leaving. Yeah,
he just went for the money.
With Kemba, I think they're in better hands. Don't get me wrong, I like Kyrie, but I think Kyrie is a great player in a system that runs ISO, but what Brad Stevens has done with the extra passes and making people believe in themselves, I think that's the mark of a good coach. That's where the Popoviches come along. You make players individually believe in themselves and then have them believe in their teammates.
Exactly.
I think that's where it kind of comes in.
Wait, Doc, you need to say that one more again for the people in the back because I don't think they heard you.
I mean, that's the same thing I feel for the next 2 series, actually, the Nuggets and the Jazz, as well as the Rockets and the Thunder. I think each team in these 2 series, I feel like they all have that same mindset. The coaches, like, think about it. The Nuggets could have easily just tanked and just say, you know what, we got to come back from down 3-1. You know, like it's a strong feat. Like, do we want to do this? Like, and the Jazz are just like really trying to close it out. But I mean, we're really getting a showing of the future beyond the Carmelos, beyond LeBron,
and I love it.
Beyond Chris Paul.
Yes,
you know, like we're getting
the next generation of
with
talent.
Murray and Spider going back and forth. You know, because these are the guys that are going to take forward. And the aforementioned Celtics, you got Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. You know, if they stay together for a while, like
I think they'll stay together. I think they'll stay together. Scary Terry Rozier, as good as he was with this Boston team, he was that piece that needed to go for them to
Right.
help to reach that up a level. Same thing with Kyrie.
Exactly.
Like, but I
Yeah,
love
I agree.
watching this series. I mean, I know people are just looking at, Jamal Murray hitting 50, 42 the last game and 50 the last game but it's just his drive, motivation, the game plan. I mean, and it's not like the teams are just doing Olay defense. It's like they're legitly playing defense. Like, let's just stop that. We just have two tremendous talents just dropping buckets.
No, absolutely.
Like Game 7 is must see TV, folks.
And it's not like Jokic isn't playing very well. They're getting some solid points from their bench.
Yep.
I'm actually surprised at Joe Ingles because he was such a marksman the last couple of years. But at this point of the season, even though they had a break, I do know some people had some injuries and whatnot. But honestly, I think the Jazz, it's not going to come down to Donovan Mitchell, and for the Nuggets, it's not going to come down to Murray. It's going to come back down to the regular people. The Ingles, the O'Neals, the Mike Conleys. Those are the people that's going to come down to.
Yeah. Well, Kenny Smith did say that Game 7 you're going to see a huge Jokic sighting, and I actually agree with him. I think Jokic establishing himself, getting people in foul trouble, will definitely help tip the tide in the Nuggets' favor. I think that's kind of what happened, which got them in so much trouble in the first game anyway. That they was just playing directly through. Well, actually, not the first game. I'm sorry, the second game. They was just going primarily through Jokic.
Right.
In fact, I believe I am correct. Yeah. He shot 10 for 21. So it was him and Michael Porter Jr., whom we haven't heard anything significant from him, according to media, since those first two games, actually.
This last game, he did have 12 rebounds. I mean, and that goes back to what you were saying about people maybe not scoring the points, but helping out in another way.
Absolutely. Because you know what that brings, folks? That brings people closer to winning a championship. You're doing something beyond what you're.
To this very moment, I'm still surprised that the Nuggets haven't pulled out Bobo. Like, I'm surprised they haven't, give me the righty. Unless he's hurt, give me the righty.
I didn't see anything on the injury reports, but I think because they went with Plumlee, who actually had an incredible game last game, actually. So, I mean, I understand Bobo, but Mason Plumlee came in and, gave them a good solid 12 minutes of just pure energy.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like
it's one of those things where, you saying, well, Bobo could have definitely helped tip the tide, but what if he actually, not necessarily hurt the team, but it wasn't what they needed at that time,
I think Bobo would have helped with the protecting of the basket aspect. Because, his wingspan is pretty ridiculous. And I think with Donovan Mitchell, with both teams really driving to the lane, I think knowing that Bobo and Jokic potentially are there, that could have really disrupted some of that driving to the lane.
Well, you have to remember, though, so if they do that, that means someone else has to crash down onto Rudy Gobert. That, dunks and potential foul trouble as well, too.
What are you talking about? Think about it like this. So they run Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, Gobert, Ingles, and Royce O'Neal. So they would have to switch that, which they don't really have.
Unless they switch out O'Neal with Jordan Clarkson.
Right, but Jordan Clarkson, I think, is maybe about 6'7" or 6'8". I don't think he's that tall. Actually, he's actually 6'4". I gave him inches. He's only 6'4".
Yeah, that's what to say. I'm like, dang.
So you might as well keep Ingles in there. They would have to bring in somebody like Tony Bradley, who, he's okay. but he's not.
He's more of a defensive guy.
offensively.
Yeah, he's more of a defensive
Yeah,
guy.
he's not the guy you want to bring in. You lose a lot of firepower. So, and I think with Bobo, his ability to expand, I just think it might work out better for them personally. But I'm just surprised they haven't brought them back.
Game 7, money's on the line. Going to the next round's on the line. I mean, potential last game of the season. You can't leave anything, hold anything back.
Hold anything back, Brett. But speaking of last game, so Jazz Nuggets tonight, or I guess when you're listening to this tomorrow, it was yesterday.
Yes.
And Rockets would be today if you're listening on Wednesday. So I knew that the Rockets were going to struggle. I had no doubts about it. I actually didn't expect to win this much, but honestly, it's going to come down to what I was just saying about the teams. It's like, can people hit the shots?
Mm-hmm.
Can people do what they need to do? Obviously, Westbrook came back last game, or the game before last. He played, some minutes, and then I think they increased it the game after that. Obviously, people were now talking about the turnover that led to the loss. But ultimately, you can't say, "Hey, we lost because of this one turnover."
No, because they still had one more shot left. Stop it.
Yeah, so I'm not really trying to hear all that. I think if we do lose, I think win or lose, I think this is Mike D'Antoni's last game. I think this is another team that needs to be changed. I am happy to see that we actually used more than 7 people this last game, which kind of worked out because we actually were able to actually compete for a win rather than going with the typical 7-man rotation. We actually used 8 to 9 people, which is perfect.
Yeah, it was 9.
That's the way it's supposed to be. Use them all. I don't know how we're rebounding, but somehow PJ Tucker gets it done. Somehow James Harden gets it done. I guess it just comes down to fundamentals. But
it also comes down to just this is one of my former coaches. Like, you gotta want it. You can have someone who's taller than you, but if you want that ball, you will get that rebound.
I mean, but when you're 6'5" and you're going against, somebody 6'10", 6'11" with a higher wingspan, obviously,
Doc, we're talking about John Gotti right now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're talking about boxing out and everything.
Exactly. Like, I mean, it's that within itself of his own craft. And if y'all don't believe us, I mean, just look at Dennis Rodman's career, Charles Barkley's career. Like, we've seen people who
Rodman was a different animal though, because what Rodman did was, and this is something that I think I mentioned off the stream yesterday. I'll give a little bit of context, but I was listening to Dave Ramsey, and he said something else that was pretty interesting. He said, "Nobody wins by accident."
Nope.
And I was like, you know what? That's legit right there. And I think it's going to take some preparation, some, like you said, watching game film, preparing your body. Like, that's something I really like about James Harden, is that even after a win or a loss, sometimes, they show him going out and shooting around after a game.
Yep.
I don't know how many other players do that, but I'm actually pretty happy to see.
Honestly, I think more players than the media let you see.
Yeah, I really like that.
And I agree. And the Rockets, despite their bombs away mentality, still shooting a respectable 36% from 3 for the series.
Mm-hmm.
OKC's 30%. So, I mean, shooting-wise, they're still pretty even. I think what's really separating them, honestly, it's free throws, honestly. It's free throws.
Yeah,
it's
gonna be the case.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it does look like his free throws.
And honestly, you know what's going to come down to, and this is where, I don't know if it's Mike D'Antoni, I don't know if it's the culture of the team, but, I've seen this very often. It's almost like, the rocket takes off and, obviously the takeoff is always strong and fast. But then once you get into orbit, into space, they start to coast.
That
it's just like
is 100% true. And
yeah,
I think that's been their issue for the past 3 years, if we're going to be honest.
Yeah, it's like once we get a big lead, we could be up by 20 something, and then all of a sudden it's like
I believe they were up by like 20 something actually.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like we have chances all the time. Like we really should have ended this series already. Despite my saying that they were going to lose, we really should have lost this, but they just found a way to lose, really, or find a way to win, which I was really, really surprised. But I don't know. I just think that it's going to take a lot of grit. It's going to take a lot of grit.
I mean, that's quite edgy of you to say that.
Yeah. Even as a Rockets fan, it's going to take a lot of grit.
So game 7 tonight, game 7 tonight, game 7 tomorrow. Who you got?
I'm going to go with the Nuggets.
Nuggets for tonight, and then Rockets?
Yeah, I might as well. I mean, they already shocked me already, so.
I'm going to go OKC, and I'm going to go Nuggets. I see you with Nuggets. I think it's the Nuggets' chance. Like Jamal Murray is, and we keep talking about this. Like, who cares about the regular season?
Right.
You make your legacy in the playoffs.
True.
And that's what these two young players, Donovan Mitchell, Jamal Murray, are currently doing.
It's going to come down to Jokic, like you said.
And I feel like it's going to come down to, Jokic, what Jokic is going to do. Because they're going to double him now. They're going to double Jamal Murray. So the question is, who's going to help them win this game now? Don't be surprised Jamal Murray has like 15 to 20 assists.
Facts.
But folks, on that note, we're going to take a quick break and be right back with more Debate Among Friends right after this. Two minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of every show, we like to do what's called the 2-minute drill, where we go over stories and topics that we didn't get a chance to cover during the show. My first final thought here, Logan Ryan signs a 1-year contract with the New York Football Giants. Prof?
Thanks, Doc. Congratulations are in order for the most improved player of the 2019-2020 NBA season, and that goes to forward Brandon Ingram of the New Orleans Pelicans. Back to you, Doc.
Awesome. Left tackle of the Detroit Lions, Taylor Decker, agrees to a full-year, $60 million extension with $37.5 million fully guaranteed. Prof?
And we always talk about the young guys, but I'm going to give a shout out to the old guys. Adam Wainwright turned 39 years old a few days ago. He is the oldest player in the National League in MLB, and he threw a 122-pitch complete game with his catcher, Yadier Molina, in their 2000th game as a St. Louis Cardinal. Back to you, Doc.
Awesome. And lastly, former QB1 behind the lights star quarterback Spencer Rattler of the Oklahoma Sooners has been named the starting QB this season. The announcement coming earlier today from Lincoln Riley. So the former QB1 star Spencer Rattler will get the nod for the Sooners win and if we get a season. And that is all we have for today's show. Be sure to tune in next week, potentially, where we'll have more updates on the playoffs, more COVID news, more of what you love, and so many more reads.
Yay!
Thank you for listening to Debate Amongst Friends. Give us a follow on our social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
You can also listen to all of our Debate Amongst Friends podcasts here on Anchor, as well as Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and iTunes.
And like we always say, goodbye, mwah, and to all, a good night. LASG.